What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton could have more power than the Ferrari boss himself? After the disastrous 2025 Singapore Grand Prix, the conditions that the seven-time champion has imposed on the Italian team were leaked. Are these the keys to their possible rebirth, or the beginning of the end of this historic relationship? The 2025 Singapore Grand Prix, far from being just another race on the calendar, was the turning point that exposed all of Ferrari's technical and organizational shortcomings, and at the same time, the catalyst that detonated one of the biggest internal crises in the Scuderia in recent years. From the outside, what was perceived was a day plagued by technical errors, questionable strategic decisions, and an operational execution that left much to be desired. But inside the Maranello garage, what happened was much more serious. Trust between Lewis Hamilton and the team was broken. From the first laps, it was clear that something was not working. Both Hamilton and Charles Leclerc were forced to apply extreme energy and temperature management techniques, such as lift and coast, not for strategy, but for survival. This maneuver, which consists of lifting the foot off the accelerator before braking zones to reduce the thermal load on the brakes and save fuel, is an unequivocal sign that the car is not functioning correctly in racing conditions. On a track as demanding as Marina Bay, where temperatures and demands on the braking system are high, this strategy meant not only losing pace, but also putting the integrity of the car and the driver at risk. The chaos intensified with timing errors in the pits. Ferrari failed to execute efficient stops, and most alarming was the lack of fluid communication between engineers and drivers during the development of the race. In a category where milliseconds and clear information can define the outcome of a race, these types of failures are not only unacceptable, but are devastating for the morale of a driver like Hamilton, accustomed to Mercedes' standards of technical excellence. For Hamilton, this wasn't just a bad race. It was a bitter revelation. Despite having worked for months with the team in simulators, technical sessions, and private tests, the reality on the track showed a much starker picture. Ferrari was not technically or operationally prepared to give it a competitive car. It was there that his reaction began to take shape, not public, but forceful within the team. If Maranello wanted to continue counting on his talent, it had to radically transform. Hamilton's post-race media silence was no coincidence. It was the reflection of a measured strategy. This wasn't an impulsive complaint or an emotional post-race critique. Hamilton remained silent because he knew something bigger was coming, the formal presentation of a series of technical and contractual demands that, in his vision, were the only way to turn Ferrari into a dominant force in today's Formula One. At that moment, more than a disappointed driver, what Ferrari had on its hands was a world champion who had already drawn up a plan to save his season and, possibly, also the entire Scuderia project. This Singapore Grand Prix marked, without a doubt, a before and after. Not only because it revealed the technical vulnerabilities of the SF25, but because it established Hamilton as an authority figure within the team, someone who was not going to tolerate mediocrity or half-baked processes. From here on, the internal dynamics of Ferrari changed forever. Lewis Hamilton's leaked demands to Ferrari cannot be seen as simple technical suggestions or as a list of requests from a dissatisfied driver. They are, in concrete terms, a manifesto of non-negotiable conditions that the seven-time world champion has put on the table to guarantee his permanence and, above all, to ensure that Ferrari provides him with a car capable of competing for his 8th world title. More than a declaration of intent, what was leaked was a technical and structural roadmap to redesign the team's operational DNA. The first big impact of these leaks was discovering that Hamilton has a contractual clause that positions him above Ferrari's sports management regarding the decision of whether or not to continue his relationship with the team. This clause allows him to unilaterally extend his contract until 2027 without the need for approval from Maranello executives. It's a tool of power unprecedented in the team's recent history, and its mere existence explains why Hamilton has felt empowered to make demands of such magnitude. Among the documents sent by Hamilton according to Italian media and internal leaks, a forensic analysis of the SF25 is included. The British not only identifies areas for improvement, it proposes radical changes that point directly to the technical foundations of the car and the organizational functioning of the team. One of the areas where Hamilton has been most emphatic is the regenerative braking system. Since arriving at Ferrari, he has faced serious difficulties adapting to the Brembo system used by the team, which differs considerably from the brakes he used at Mercedes, both in response and integration with the MGUK system. But their demands do not remain in the present. The document goes beyond SF 25 and focuses on Project 2026, known internally as Project 678. Hamilton requests that this new car be designed from the ground up with an architecture that corrects current deficiencies. Its conditions include a profound modification of the energy recovery system, the complete elimination of the lag that affects regenerative braking, and an exhaustive review of the brake-by-wire system. In addition, he is asked to integrate additional sensors to improve pedal feedback, something that according to him was fundamental in his performance with Mercedes. Another key requirement has to do with the suspension architecture. Hamilton has identified that the weight distribution and response of the front suspension do not allow adequate reading of the car in high lateral load corners. He has requested a complete design review for the next car, including changes to the front pushrod and the treatment of telemetry data, which, according to his analysis, is not used optimally during race weekends. But the most disruptive thing about leaked content is what has to do with the human and structural part of the team. Hamilton has demanded a complete transformation of the communication model between departments. He denounces a lack of synergy between those responsible for aerodynamics, electronics, and race strategy, something that brutally contrasts with the surgical precision that Mercedes used to have. In his proposal, Hamilton details the creation of a multidisciplinary core team that works as a unified cell during Grand Prix weekends with a single direct communication channel to the drivers. These demands, far from being a whim of a star driver, reflect a long-term vision. Hamilton doesn't just want to win, he wants to leave a legacy at Ferrari. To achieve this, he is not willing to adapt to the traditional Maranello system. His intention is for Ferrari to evolve towards a more efficient, modern model with a work culture focused on precision and constant innovation. Therefore, these conditions are not a suggestion. They are an ultimatum with a first and last name. Either Ferrari changes or Hamilton could leave early, with the certainty that he left his message engraved in the foundations of the Scuderia. The so-called Project 678 is much more than an internal code at Ferrari. This is the platform on which the car will be built for the 2026 season. A year that will mark a new era in Formula One with the arrival of the new technical regulations focused on more sustainable power units, active aerodynamics, and a complete reformulation of energy strategies. Lewis Hamilton knows this, and that is why he has decided to intervene fully in its design from now on, knowing that this car will be his real opportunity to fight for the 8th world title with Ferrari. Recent leaks reveal that Hamilton has not only requested to actively participate in conceptual phase of the car, but has already sent a detailed technical report to the Maranello factory where he breaks down the elements he considers priority for the competitive development of the 2026 car. This report goes beyond the subjective aspects of driving, contains precise technical references to concepts of mass distribution, aerodynamic load points, thermal transfer, and energy mapping of the hybrid system. Hamilton has also placed special emphasis on the human aspect of the project. According to sources close to the team, he has demanded that the group in charge of Project 678 be made up of a small core of highly specialized engineers with direct experience in the development of champion cars. He has even recommended names from other structures with which he has previously worked. For him, the key is not just in the data or the simulators, but in building a technical team that speaks the same language with a winning mentality from the initial design. Project 678 represents, therefore, a convergence of visions. Ferrari with its historical heritage and traditional structure, and Hamilton with a surgical, perfectionist mentality shaped by years of success at Mercedes. The big question is whether the Scuderia is willing to break with its own routines to allow a driver to take such a leading role in the development of a car from such an early stage. For Hamilton, the answer is simple. If this is not done, 2026 will be another lost year. And this project is not simply a technical roadmap. It is a testament that Hamilton has not gone to Ferrari to retire or to collect his latest contract. He is committed to changing his history and that of the team. He wants to turn the next car into a winning weapon. Not to compete, but to dominate. And he's willing to take on Maranello's culture if it means building a car worthy of a world champion. The Briton has arrived not as a Ferrari employee, but as a partner with veto power. His automatic renewal clause until 2027, without the need for approval from the team, gives him real control over his future with the team. That clause, initially designed as a guarantee to attract him to Maranello, has now become an instrument of strategic pressure. Hamilton can use it as a lever to force internal changes, knowing that Ferrari cannot risk losing him without unleashing a media and sporting storm. Now I put the question directly to you. Are we seeing a driver who will transform Ferrari from within and bring Maranello back to the throne? Or are we witnessing the most ambitious and frustrated attempt in the history of the modern Scuderia? Are you on the side of those who believe Hamilton has the power, vision, and talent to rewrite Ferrari's destiny? Or do you think that even his experience and track record are not enough to break decades of repeated mistakes? What do you think of the leaked clauses? Do you think this is an excess of power on the part of Hamilton or a logical maneuver for someone who has demonstrated everything he had to prove? Should Ferrari give in completely to their demands or set clear boundaries to preserve their identity as a team? What do you think about all this? Leave it to me in the comments.